Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our North Middlesex January 20th council meeting. Once again, it is electronic due to the COVID regulations. I'll bring the meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock. Roll call. I see we have everyone is here. I would just like to make a notice to everyone just before we get started that following the closed meeting, we will try to live stream after when we come back into open. However, any recommendations considered in the open meeting as a result of the closed, if we can't live stream it, it will be recorded and posted for public viewing on the municipal website afterwards. All right, so it is 6 o'clock, so we'll get started right away. And we have the minutes, I believe, to pass for December 16th. We need a mover. Any business arising first, sorry. Business arising from the minutes of December 16th? Seeing none, we need a motion to accept the minutes. Councillor Moyer, Councillor Hamming, all in favor? That's carried. And we do have planning coming up, and so I would need a motion to go to a committee of adjustment. Councillor McClinchy and Councillor Nickel, all in favor? Carried. So we're into committee of adjustment, and our first item is a notice of public meeting for consent to sever land for Delphine and Jack Shenning at 2557 McGuffin Hills Drive. Do we have the Shennings? Do we have the?
Yeah, I just promoted to a panelist. Here we go.
Okay, we have them.
I'll ask to unmute.
Unmute, okay, unmute.
Yep, there you go.
Okay, you're there?
Yeah, this is new to us.
Okay, no problem, welcome. I'll start by turning this over to our planner, to Stephanie.
Okay.
You start. All right, Stephanie, if you want to start.
Sure, yeah. Hold on 1 second, I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay, so the purpose and effect of the application is to sever surplus farm residence on a lot with a frontage of approximately 79.25 meters or 260 feet along McGuffin Hills Drive and an area of approximately 0.7 hectares or 1.73 acres from a parcel with a total area of approximately 11.07 hectares or 27.36 acres. The lands proposed to be severed contain agricultural land and crop production and are otherwise unserviced as they are used for agricultural purposes. And the lands proposed to be retained contain an existing single detached dwelling, drive shed, and are serviced by a private well and septic system. The subject lands are serviced, and contain 2 existing accesses off of McGuffin Hills Drive. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and municipalities official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to evaluation criteria. The owner and agent have applied for a reverse surplus farm dwelling severance, whereby the owner retains the dwelling and severs the agricultural land. Staff are satisfied that a farm consolidation will be achieved as the owner and agent have secured a purchaser for the agricultural land, being Roland's Farms Park Hill Limited, and have demonstrated that the residents may be deemed surplus the needs of farming operation. The applicants have provided supplementary information that demonstrates ownership of a number of farm holdings containing additional dwelling, and impact data has indicated that the existing dwelling was constructed around the 1900s. The North Middlesex official plan indicates that the severed parcel should generally only be as large as necessary to accommodate the on-site water and sanitary disposal facilities, and should generally be a maximum of 1 hectare or 2.5 acres in size. Staff note that the area of the lands proposed to be severed remain consistent with the maximum size and the minimum lot size requirement of the AG1 zone. The proposed lands to be severed include a septic system and well and are considered to be an appropriate size. As a condition of the consent application, the lands proposed to be severed will need to be rezoned to the agricultural small holding AG1 zone, which requires a minimum lot frontage of 50 meters and a minimum lot area of 4,000 square meters. All other zoning standards of the AG1 zone appear to be met. Additionally, the lands to be retained will need to be rezoned to a general agricultural exception zone, and that's to prohibit the construction of a new dwelling on the lands and to recognize the undersized area of the lands. In all other zoning standards of the A1 zone appear to be met. Planning staff are satisfied that the criteria for the severance of a surplus farm residence on the lands have been met or can be appropriately addressed via the conditions of consent. The application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and we received the following comments. The North Middlesex Public Works Department noted that there's no municipal water available fronting the subject lands. The lands are not subject to a drainage reassessment. The lands contain 2 existing accesses off McGuffin Hills Drive, and that an entrance permit be obtained for the lands to be the remnant agricultural lands, if access does not currently exist at the cost of the applicant to the satisfaction of the municipality. The North Middlesex chief building official noted that unless replaced, the existing septic system is to be inspected by a qualified septic installer, and the inspection report be provided to the municipality for determination as to any replacement or remedial works that may be required. The qualified septic installer shall also confirm the location of the existing septic system is wholly contained on the severed lands and confirm that the clearance distance from the septic system and the well is adequate. Through the zoning bylaw amendment application, verification that the accessory building on the retained lands is in conformity with the 10% lot coverage and height of 5.5 meters will be required. And should any deficiencies occur, a site-specific AG1 zone should be applied for. That the accessory building located on the lands be issued a change of use permit to prohibit livestock and recognize the residential accessory use, or be removed to the satisfaction of the municipality. And that the concrete pad and debris located at the rear of the lands proposed to be retained be removed to the satisfaction of the municipality. At the time of writing the subject report, no comments or concern had been received from the public regarding the proposal. And so it is recommended that the application be granted, subject to the conditions, which council should have a copy of. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Just before we go on to the applicant, I would like to go back. I did miss the approval of the minutes for the Committee of Adjustment for November 4th and December the 18th. Any business arising from that? Are you moving that, Deputy Mayor? Moved by the Deputy Mayor. Need a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Keogh. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks. Now we'll go back to this application. I would ask the applicant, do you have anything you'd like to add? Jack or Delphine?
No, I think she pretty well covered it.
Okay.
Mayor Rob,
Yes, go ahead.
I think we should just take a brief recess, just in the event that any public members for this application have an opportunity to access the meeting. We had no one pre-register, but as we always do, we would normally go into our splash screen to allow for any last minute public to access. So just maybe before council considers the recommendation, we could just take a brief break.
Okay, thank you.
meeting will resume in approximately 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll start doing stuff like this. You can't have the laptop start shutting you down.
Well, then you go on something else and do it.
Huh? What's that?
Nothing.
5 minutes? How can anybody comment on something unless they've signed up?
I would just remind everyone that to have your mics muted, please, while we are on a break. We will make that discussion when we come back. All right. Sorry for the delay, everyone. At this time, is there any response from public on this? Do we have anyone? We have no one. So hearing nothing from public, I would ask the committee if you have any questions. Any questions on the committee? Deputy Mayor Cornelison, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, can you just share with us, please, how this is different from, say, a severance application given the size of the lot, since it's what, 25 acres, I think I read there. It seems rather small for a farm parcel. How is this different from, say, severing off 50 acres from a 100-acre farm? How is this different?
There are a few, through the mayor to the councillor. There are a series of different agricultural policies when it comes to severing land. There are essentially two ways. One is through a farm split where you would need to have 200 acres and you could split it into two 100-acre parcels. And that's because our minimum lot size for agricultural farmland is 100 acres or 39 hectares in size. So that's why you would, in order for me to be in a position to support, we would need 100 acres on both the severed and retained parcel. And then the other way to do an agricultural severance is through a surplus farm dwelling severance, whereby a farmer has multiple agricultural parcels of land with more than one dwelling that they are able to deem surplus, and that's through a series of criteria. So in this case, this is what's called a reverse surplus farm dwelling severance, whereby the current owners are keeping the dwelling where they reside, and they are selling the remnant farm lands, which are being consolidated with an existing farming operation who would meet the criteria that's listed within our official plan.
So just for clarification then, if I may, just as a follow-up question, So is the entire size of this property prior to the severance less than 39 hectares? What's the current size now?
Through the mayor to the councillor, the current size of the property is about 27 acres in size. So it's an existing undersized lot.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing no other questions, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Moyer, seconded by Councillor Keogh. Discussion? All in favor? Carried, thank you. I would just remind the public that all of the list of the conditions for the severance and for all these planning are available on our agenda. So you can check on the agenda and see all that list, okay? All right, so I need a motion to go out of Committee of Adjustment and go into a public meeting. Councillor Hemming, Councillor Moyer, all in favor? Carried. And due to our wonderful virtual, we have to have a short recess again to get our people in for the next public meeting. When we come back, it'll be the notice of public meeting for proposed zoning amendment, Sunrise Orchards, Inc. at 9188 Townsend Line. All right, looks like we're ready to go. I believe we have Jerry Beans. Are you with us, Jerry?
Hello,
How are you?
not too bad, how are you?
Good. All right, this is the application for Sunrise Orchards, Inc., 9188 Townsend Line. Stephanie, if you would like to start.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. All right, so the purpose and effect of the application is to rezone the subject lands from the general agricultural A1 zone to the general agricultural exception A1-80 zone in order to permit living accommodations within an agricultural building for the purpose of housing seasonal farm laborers. The subject lands contain an apple orchard, which is Sunrise Orchards, a single detached dwelling where the owners reside, a second dwelling for the purpose of boarding seasonal farm laborers, and 2 agricultural buildings for apple packing and storage. The property is serviced by municipal water and a private septic system and has an existing access off Townsend Line. The applicant is advised that the federal government will be working towards developing new mandatory requirements to improve employer-provided housing to ensure better living conditions for workers in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Prior to the new requirements being established, the applicant has proactively applied to establish living accommodations within a newly proposed agricultural building in order to have additional space available for quarantine purposes, as the farm laborers for the operation are scheduled to arrive in February 2021. This living accommodation would include sleeping quarters, washrooms, and kitchen facilities, which would constitute as a dwelling unit. During the pre-consultation meeting, staff advised that living accommodations for seasonal workers are generally established through a temporary use bylaw. However, the applicant advised that they are looking for a more permanent solution, as they're looking to operate the farm well beyond the 3-year term of a temporary use zoning bylaw. Additionally, the applicant has advised that at their peak of operation, they house 10 to 12 seasonal laborers. The provincial policy statement and guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario's prime agricultural areas recognize that accommodations for farm labor can be considered an appropriate use in the agricultural area, so long as agricultural uses will not be negatively impacted. The accommodations are located in building clusters, and consideration has been given to temporary forms of accommodation, such as trailers or other portable dwelling units. The applicant is proposing to construct a 6,000 square feet agricultural building, which will comprise of a workshop, storage space, and a 1,440 square feet living accommodation space for the farm laborers. The dwelling unit is proposed to be serviced by a new septic system to be installed through the building permit process. The new agricultural building with living accommodations is proposed to be located adjacent to the second detached residential dwelling used for housing farm laborers, and in close proximity to the main single detached dwelling where the owner resides, and other agricultural buildings, which you can see up on your screen in front of you. Staff also note that the proposed structure will be set back further from the road than the main dwelling. Staff are of the opinion that the zoning bylaw amendment to permit living accommodations within an agricultural building for the purpose of housing seasonal farm laborers to be consistent with the provincial policy statement, as the building will be clustered with the other existing buildings. Accommodations for farm labor is considered to be a normal farm practice, and negative impacts to the agricultural land are not anticipated. The county official plan, North Middlesex official plan, and the North Middlesex zoning bylaw all include policy direction to permit a second farm dwelling for farm labor in the agriculturally designated and zoned areas through a temporary use zoning bylaw amendment application. The intent of limiting the amount of farm labor accommodations and the preference to a temporary structure is to prevent a cluster of residential uses within the agricultural areas, to prevent the future severance potential of multiple residential dwellings, and to generally protect/maintain agricultural lands for agricultural uses. Although the subject lands already contain a second detached dwelling unit for the purposes of housing farm laborers, staff are of the opinion that allowing additional living accommodations within an agricultural building does not necessarily offend the policies within the county official plan and North Middlesex official plan, as a third standalone purpose-built residential dwelling is not being established, and negative impacts to the agricultural area are not anticipated. Staff note that including the living accommodations within an agricultural building would greatly reduce the likeliness of a severance application in the future, and is considered to be a more appropriate permanent structure as opposed to a third standalone single detached dwelling. and doing further research on the federal and provincial government's effort to improve employer-provided housing, it appears some of the main objectives include, but are not limited to, reduce potential for overcrowding in order to ensure adequate personal space and privacy, greater adaptability to public health measures to prevent the outbreak of communicable diseases, and appropriate ratios of amenities. This may include housing less workers in current structures and requiring workers to remain living and work in work cohorts. It appears that the applicant's proposal at a high level is consistent with the federal and provincial's direction for the need for improved housing for farm laborers and the need for increased health and safety. It is noted that the application to permit the additional accommodation in no way exempts the applicant from being subject to the updated federal mandatory requirements for employer-provided housing once that has been completed. Overall, staff recognize that housing accommodations for farm laborers are considered to be an essential part of those farming operations that require it, such as this, and staff are satisfied that the additional farm labor housing accommodations within the agricultural building is considered to be appropriate, as the agricultural building could be converted for agricultural uses in the future, which lends itself to be less permanent in nature, while still providing the stable housing for the farm operation that will not require coming back to the municipality to renew the temporary zoning every 3 years. The application was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, and the North Middlesex Public Works Department had no comments. The North Middlesex Chief Building Official did note the following: that building permits will be required for the new building as well as the septic, that verification will be required to ensure daily design flow of the existing dwellings with the proposed will be less than 10,000 liters per day. And the owner is advised to discuss the proposal with the building department prior to incurring costs to ensure proper submission of drawings and to reduce delays. And at the time of writing the report, no comments or concerns have been received from the public regarding this proposal. So it is recommended that the application be approved.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, Jerry, is there anything you'd like to add?
Sorry, was that to me?
Yes, so I'm sorry. Yes, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Not really. I'm not actually wanting to rezone. I know I have to go through that process. I just need a house for, I'm sure about the process of do down the road. It's going to have zoned.
So I'm sorry, you're breaking up right now, Jerry. I don't think it's just me, is it?
No, our internet's really bad.
Okay. Okay, we can try this again.
I'm just worried if we rezone about taxes.
Okay, does anybody want to, Jonathan, can you touch on that, or just a minute?
Deputy Mayor has a question as well too, so.
Okay, I want to let Jerry finish first.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, my internet area.
Okay.
Through your worship, Stephanie, the rezoning, and you'll have to forgive me, I wasn't able to catch all of that. It's staying in still the primary ag use, is it not?
That's correct.
Yes, then his taxes wouldn't change because it's defined usually by residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural.
So there shouldn't be a change in that?
There could be a minute change based off of the impact because the more you introduce in terms of building development and envelopes, it's considered an intensification. But in terms of his primary use, that's the governing one. It's not gonna, he's gonna see a nominal difference, if anything.
Okay, Jerry, did you get that?
Yes,
Okay, Deputy Mayor Cornelison, you had a question.
No, I was just going to clarify for you, Mayor Rob, that that's what Jerry's point was, because we had discussed that previously.
Okay, okay. So at this time, I would ask if there's any comments from public. Is there anyone there, Mike? There's no one there. All right, from council, questions from council. Deputy Mayor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. My question is for Stephanie. Stephanie, you and I spoke over the winter throughout this process with Mr. Beans and whatnot about possible changes coming through the provincial guidelines, in particular in these type of situations for migrant and agricultural workers. Has there been any indication that these changes are forthcoming to allow this process to be more expedited and less cumbersome for the applicants?
So through the mayor to the councillor, from my understanding, the federal government has undergone some consultation in regards to the seasonal agricultural worker program, and that was between October 27th and December 22nd of this year. I am not aware if they have released the updated document at this point based on the consultation phase that has occurred. But the County of Middlesex as a whole is very interested in this topic and will be following it to ensure that our policies reflect and are consistent with the federal and provincial levels.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? No other questions from council? We have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Hemming, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cornelison. All in favor? Carried. Carried. Jackie, would you? We have a 20-day appeal period on this, correct?
Yeah, so I will send out the notice of decision with the applicable appeal date, and the bylaw will be considered later in the evening.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, I want to thank you. I want to commend you for putting up better housing for the seasonal workers and working through a tough time farming. Thank you.
thank you.
Our next, we will have another short break, but our next application is for proposed zoning amendment to Anne Marie Van Duren at 10802 Argyle Street. And so we will have a short break again. All right, it looks like we're ready, and I believe the agent is with us. Is that right? And it's Ashley Podolinsky. You're there, Ashley?
Yes, I'm here to represent the client. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Okay, this is for the zoning amendment for Anne Marie Van Duren, 10802 Argyle Street. And Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you. The purpose and effect of the application is to implement a condition of consent imposed by the North Middlesex Committee of Adjustment for Consent B07-2020, which conditionally severed a lot with an area of 0.85 hectares or 2.11 acres in order to accommodate the disposal of a surplus farm dwelling. More specifically, the zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to rezone the severed lot from the general agricultural A1 zone to the agricultural small holding exception AG1-30 zone to recognize the residential use of the lands, limit the range of permitted uses, and recognize a deficient lot frontage of 10 meters or 33 feet, which makes up the width of the driveway. Additionally, the application also proposes to rezone the retained lands from the general agricultural A1 zone to the general agricultural exception 85 A1-85 zone to prohibit the establishment of new dwellings on the remnant farm parcel. The application has been circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act. The North Middlesex Chief Building Official and the Public Works Department had no comments. And at the time of writing the subject report, no comments or concern had been received from any members of the public. So staff are in support of this application and are of the opinion that is consistent with the policies and recommend that the application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, I would ask the applicant, Ashley, if you'd have anything you'd like to add.
Oh, Stephanie covered everything. Thank you.
Okay. We have no public comment. All right, thank you. Council, questions from council. Deputy Mayor Ellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, I have a question on the last paragraph on the background. It makes reference to an easement in favor of the abutting lands. What does that specifically mean?
Yeah, so through the mayor to the councillor, perhaps I'll share my screen again so that everyone can see the map. I think that'll assist in answering the question. So on your screen in front of you, you can see that there is an existing access easement. This was established, if council will recall, through a consent application was granted on November. Oh, sorry. It was application B06-2019 that was approved in 2019. And it's actually an access easement for the abutting parcel right here to access their outbuildings.
Okay, so that effectively then becomes a shared driveway then.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? No other questions from council? We have a recommendation in front of us. Councillor Keogh, moved by Councillor Keogh, seconder is Councillor Nickel. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Thanks, Stephanie. Before we go on, I just want to ask people to be patient. We are experiencing a little bit of internet issues tonight, and so we'll just keep working through it. So we will have a short break once again, but coming back, we will have drainage, and that is the meeting to consider engineer's report for Van Massenhoven Drain. So we'll just take a short break again.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Stephanie. All right, thank you once again, Mike. All right, we are going into engineering on our Van Massenhoven drain. And I believe, John, are you going to speak on this? John Lampman will take this. Go ahead.
Mayor, members of council, what you have in front of you is a recommendation to accept the final report for the Van Massenhoven drain dated December 16, 2020, prepared by R. Dobbin Engineering, and that council give 2 readings for a provisional bylaw as per section 45 of the Drainage Act 1990 on the municipal drain mentioned above, the Van Massenhoven drain. Just to let you know, there has been some questions that have come up from a few residents that are on the drain, which is why we have brought Mr. Lagerworth, Mr. McLaughlin, and Mr. DeGow in tonight, as well as Josh Warner from Dobbin Engineering. Mayor, I think if anybody from the public has any questions, or council for that matter, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you. At this time, is there anything that engineering Dobbins would like to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. I'm available for questions though.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Okay, at this time, any comments, questions from the affected landowners that are here?
Nelson McLaughlin.
Nelson, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I did send an email to Joanne and sent it to Josh and copied it, and we had some discussion since. My concern was on the fact that the new drain I put in 2016-17 is the grade is fairly flat, and as you go upstream, there's more grade plus all the head pressure coming down, and whether that would be able to support my drain would be able to support the oncoming water. Josh and the person I contacted all claims it will, but the only other concern I had was just the outlet at the end and stuff. So, and then whether the stuff's going to be replaced. So depending if we're talking on drain A or B, that was B that I was just talking about. Drain A, I talked to Josh, they were going to decommission the drain that is there now. And I was wanting that left where it goes across my farm. So I have that for outlet plus the catch basin or Hickenbottom that's at the fence line now. And he said instead of rewriting the report, he would put that in the minutes and it would go into when they do the tender. So it could be left.
Josh or Johnson, do you want to comment to that? That's all, that's worked out?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. I think Nelson's comments were accurate as to our discussions. I think the big takeaway is that, yeah, when we tender the project, the tile's not going to be decommissioned on his property. It's going to be left in place.
Okay. So does that give you what you want, Nelson?
Yeah, and then also on Drain A, we talked to it, but that'll come down to the site meeting because they listed it in the report that they would have access for that drain across my property through the laneway and stuff around the house. But that'll depend on when we do the on-site meeting and whether conditions will allow for that at that time.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments from the landowners? Mr. Gow, Mr. Legworth, anything from you? No? Okay, go ahead, Josh. Josh Legworth.
Yes, thanks for seeing me. Basically, my only concern is that this new drainage improvement looks good, and I've discussed it with Josh. It seems like it's going to help out through Wilson's comments there, make sure that it's going to run through his land properly. But my large concern is I'm not this drain, and from the report, they've got me down as a zero benefit that this is going to help me, but I'm still on the hook for just under $8,000. I'm not one to say I don't want to see improvement. I think it will be good, and it'll definitely going to help out a lot of people, but there isn't going to be any direct benefit to me whatsoever. So that's my major concern.
Okay.
I know Josh and I discussed it before, and like I said, it's a 50-acre farm that's randomly tiled. It's not systematically tiled, and like I said, it doesn't connect into this drain. I know the way the land sheds down, it says it goes to this drain, but I don't feel that.
Sorry, I lost you there, Josh.
Yeah.
At the end, I lost you.
Sorry, was I cutting out there?
Just at the end.
Yeah, so like I said, like how I feel that since I don't directly benefit to this whatsoever and that I'm not connected to this drain, I'll some for no benefit.
Okay. Jonathan or Josh?
Yeah, through the mayor, I think we understand what Mr. Lagerwerf's concerns are with this and the way it's been assessed out. You are breaking up there, Josh. Josh Warner, why don't you explain a bit of like outlet and benefit just for council's benefit? I know Mr. Lagerwerf's heard it, but maybe for council's benefit, explain how that gets rolled out.
Yeah, so in terms of benefit, so you'll see the separate column in the drainage report. So benefit is basically improved control of surface, subsurface water, or it can be improved value to that property because of the improvement in the drainage. The Lagerwerf property did not have a benefit assessment as part of this report. It's all outlet. So outlet is based on the amount of water that you have contributing to the drain. So your water is contributing to the drain, therefore contributing to the size of the drain, therefore contributing to the cost. So you pay for a portion of that cost. The drain was assessed 50% benefit and 50% outlet, which is pretty typical in most areas. So yeah, I don't. I think the assessment was fair as it was presented with 50% benefit, 50% outlet.
Is that done through the Drainage Act?
Yeah, through the mayor for council's consideration, this is not uncommon on drains. Mr. Lagerwerf is near the top end of a drain, and drains don't always physically touch properties like Mr. Lagerwerf. In these cases, it is the outlet assessment that goes, not the benefit assessment. Yeah, it's not uncommon. We understand Mr. Lagerwerf's, his concerns with it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments from the landowners? No other comments? Council.
If I may, Mayor. Yeah, I would just like to thank council for hearing my concerns, and I'd also like to thank Joanne for taking on the job that she has taken on, because it's got a lot of responsibility.
Thank you, Nelson. Any questions, comments from council? Councillor Moyer.
Thanks. Just curious with the Roman Catholic Episcopal Church. Can you explain that situation, Jonathan?
Yep. So the church has assessment, I believe, a little over 17,000. So the drainage, I believe it's section 66. So if there's a tax exempt land and it's a operated, and it's a church that isn't operational, the municipality will be responsible for the assessment for that property.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a recommendation in front of us. Looking for a mover. No one moving the recommendation?
Councillor Keogh, I think. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Keogh, sorry. Councillor McClinchy seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Delegations, we have none. And so department report.
Mayor Rob.
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor Rob.
Yes.
Can we just have a motion to adjourn the public meeting portion, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. Motion to go back to regular council from Councillor Moyer, Councillor Nickel. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Sorry, Jackie. So we're looking for departmental reports right now. Report to accept petition for the Van Dale McEwen drain. And who's doing that with Jonathan?
Yes. Mayor, members of council, what you have in front of you is a petition to improve the Van Dale McEwen drain through section 78 of the drainage act. The recommendation is that council receive the request for improvement to the Van Dale McEwen municipal drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act. Any questions, concerns, feel free to raise them. If not, you have a recommendation.
Questions from council? No questions? Someone move the recommendation? Councillor Keogh, seconded by Councillor Hemming. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, John. Our next report is to consider the amendment to the facility users rates. And I believe Brandon Drew is here for that, aren't you? Oh, there you are, Brandon. All right, go ahead, Brandon.
Mayor Ropp, members of council, the report in front of you is just a report on the rates and fees that we are proposing for this upcoming year. We felt with COVID, it's fair to keep the rates in the freeze pattern, with the community development fund being approved last year and being rolled over to this year. Keeping the fees the same means they don't have to apply again for a $3 allowance or whatever it may be. So the recommendation in front of you is that council hereby rescind motion 256 of 2019, which was the facility rate increase, and further adopt the a new rate schedule be adopted inclusive of 2021 facilities rate freeze into the fees and charges bylaw 64 of 2017 as amended.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. Questions from council? No questions on that? We have a recommendation. Councillor Nickel, Councillor McClinchy, seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Brandon. That was an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob, I have a question for Brandon, if I may.
Okay.
Brandon, is the ice staying in the arena, or is it coming out, or is it out?
Through Mayor Ropp to Deputy Mayor Cornelson. Right now, we're just still waiting on minor hockey. They had a Shamrock meeting last night to kind of dictate the outcome of their league. They were informed that if they wanted to do anything, it would have to remain in-house. So North Middlesex would have to keep everything localized to them, no playing outside. The minor hockey president has sent an email today to his executive members asking for a vote if they are ready to throw in the towel on the season. If that vote comes back as they're throwing in the towel on the season, I will effectively pull the plug on the ice as their main user. If they decide that they want to wait it out, I will bring a report to you guys at the next council meeting, having you guys make a decision on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Brandon. Passing of accounts. Accounts in the amount of $2,005,592.77. Tracy.
Thank
Long
you,
time
Your
no
Worship.
see.
The report is recommending the bills and the accounts in the amount of $2,005,592.77 be approved for payment. Are there any questions on the accounts payable?
Questions on the accounts? Deputy Mayor, I was going to say, surely we can't let her get away with no questions. Deputy Mayor Canellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe my question may be more directed to Jonathan Graham, perhaps. I noticed that there's a repair bill on a 2010 truck for, I think, $25,000. So my question is that it is a 2010 truck, and our policy always has been when the cost of repairs and maintenance equal 50%, that truck would then be taken out of service and replaced. Given the extent of the repairs that this truck has just incurred and the huge investment, will that be overlooked next year?
Through your worship, members of council, yes, that will be.
Okay.
This is one of our, lack of a better term, despite this repair that we've had, this is one of our better pieces of equipment. And the operations manager has expressed that he would like to keep this almost running it to the ground if he could.
Good guy.
So it was a costly bill, but it was related to a cracked cylinder. To get down to that takes a long time. A lot of hoses, a lot of clamps, a lot of blocks, and all the way back up. So we will be keeping it for the foreseeable future, to answer your question.
I have one more question for Mr. Graham as well, and that is, we always have a fairly extensive list of purchases made, like locally through business and whatnot. And I know we've always talked about implementing a purchase order system. Has that ever happened, or is that in the works?
Through your worship, again, we can look into that. It was on the back burner of some consideration, but it hasn't come to the forefront yet.
Okay.
A purchase order system requires a little bit of financial tooling organizationally to be able to do that, and some proper checks and balances to that effect. And that's something we can certainly look into the future, and we can work towards that maybe as a possible motion from the budget committee as well for consideration in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Moyer?
I got some answers from Tracy earlier on this, but for the benefit of the rest of council, the $64,000 check to the county for hardware and IT, was that for the balance of the contract, or was that for some new equipment that were received as well?
Through your worship, that was the balance of the contract, and it was all the hardware and software that they purchased for us throughout the year that had never been a bill sent for. So it was just them cleaning up their year end. So it was our capital for IT and our software and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Other questions? I do have one, seeing no others. I do have one, and it is on Van Bree drainage, the Denfield water main at $223,000. Is that the full bill for that? Is that the full cost for that? That project?
To the mayor, no, I think that was PC2, and we're into like holdback now. I think that was the last progress claim that we've received on it. The job is complete.
Okay, do we know the final number on that job yet?
We could audit the account. There was a couple small change orders to it compared to what was brought to council. Couple, like a tile that was gone through and stuff like that, but it didn't alter that much from what was there. We can easily.
I know what our budget was. Like, I'm just wondering. That's what I was wondering. Did we stay within budget for the whole project?
Very close. Yeah, very close. There was a couple small change orders, but it was very close.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, motion to pay the accounts. Oh, Jonathan, go ahead.
Sorry, through your worship, I would just like to remind you that the tender price for the Denfield water line was actually quite higher than what was the budget amount. So the term budget amount might be a misnomer in this discussion. That what John and what I think the mayor is referring to, how close were we to the tender price? And that's the price that would be indicated in this instance.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, John. That's exactly. Mover, I believe I had Councillor Moyer moving it and Councillor McClinchy seconding. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. Committee reports. Lake Huron Primary Water. Nothing. ABCA, Deputy Mayor. Nothing. Blue Water. EDAC.
Just as the minutes read.
Okay. The local school advisory. Recreation committee. Water, wastewater, nothing there. Policy, we aren't having a meeting this month because on Thursday, we do not have a meeting, correct, Jackie?
That's correct. We're moving it till February.
Okay, thank you. Fire committee, anything there? Not right now. Budget committee, we meet on the 26th, I believe. Aqua advisory board, Jonathan, anything there?
Just our meeting scheduled for next month.
Okay, community development fund, we meet Thursday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow afternoon.
And that will be by a Zoom meeting, just a reminder to the members.
And the members all got a copy, paper copy, correct? Adrian, Gordon, Andy, okay. And so the joint building committee, there's nothing there right now. So correspondence, Solicitor General, expansion of deadline to complete and adopt community safety and well-being plan until July 1st, 2021. Receive and file. Strathroy Caradoc, notice of adoption of official plan amendment to incorporate the downtown master plan into the official plan. Receive and file. City of Kitchener, motion to support to province to modify regulations governing establishment of cannabis retail. Go ahead, Councillor Nickel.
I'd like to support that.
You want to support that? Do we have a seconder? Councillor McClinchy, in favor? In favor of supporting? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, carried. The last one is the town of Kingsville. Motion to support to province to protect small business by allowing them to remain open to in-store sales and service. Councillor McClinchy?
I'd like to support that.
Councillor Hemming, are you seconding that? Or
Yeah,
you want-
definitely.
You're seconding?
No,
Okay. Discussion on that? No discussion? In favor of supporting that? Oh, in favor?
Yeah.
Sorry, put your hands. 2, 3, 4. It's carried. All right. And that's it.
Mayor Rob?
Yes.
Just before we go too far, when you had mentioned budget meeting, you mentioned the 26th. I have it down for the 28th. Is it in fact the 26th?
The 28th.
It is the 28th. Yeah.
It is 28th. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, my bad.
No, thank you.
Sorry, John. Thanks for correcting it. Okay, other business. Other business. Deputy Mayor Cornelison and then Councillor Moyer.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I just have a couple of things I'd like to share with council, if I may, and that is that Oxford County and Thames Center have recently approved some rural education task force recommendations regarding rural schools. I did forward it to Chair Nichols as well as Councillor McClinchy, who also sit on the school advisory committee, and hopefully we'll be bringing that forward for council consideration to support in February. I think Deputy Mayor Elliott from Thames Center will be bringing it to the county for us to consider there. Also, I did send to everyone a copy of the community safety and well-being report that we received. And I just thought I'd send it forward to you for reading. It's an interesting read. I was surprised at some of the issues that they identified. Surprisingly, housing wasn't one of them, so that caught me off guard. Anyway, just that's all I had for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moyer.
Yeah, a few, I think it was in November, we had Bill, the bylaw officer, in. At that time, we talked about looking into a bylaws for the marijuana grow ops. Just wondering, has anything been done on that at all? I know, Jonathan, you mentioned you were going to contact the county and get some guidelines.
Through your mayor, I'll speak to that.
Okay.
So I was assigned from Jonathan to look into that, Gord. So we started to look into that, but then we did talk to the county, and the county is putting out a report. It's forthcoming. Apparently soon, within the next couple of weeks. And when we get that report, we'll consolidate it and bring it for council.
Okay, yeah, it just seems that other municipalities are having some major concerns with them right now. Chatham, Kent, Norfolk. So I think something that we need to be trying to get on top of anyways.
And what happened in Hyde Park in London is a similar situation. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other business from anyone? No other business? Did everybody see the Stand By Me from Craigwell Gardens? That was on the news and it's gone viral. That was pretty good. That was very good. I want to congratulate Joe and pass that on. I don't know if you're still there, if you've retired yet, but it was good.
I have retired, but that was my big debut.
I saw you're part of a viral video. Good for you. But it was very well done. It was nice to see. Okay, if there's no other business, you do see the deferred items in front of you. Also, communications from Middlesex County Council. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. We had an interesting and productive meeting yesterday, I believe. One of the things that came up was the county did implement a new bylaw prohibiting ATVs on county roads. Apparently, there's been a revision of those bylaws, and I don't know if we have to relook at ours or not, because I know we passed one a few years ago to prohibit them. The other interesting thing that was done was the Watson report of population growth. And I think if anyone is a really interesting read, and if anyone's interested in that, if you go to the county website and look at our agenda, it really highlights what they anticipate the growth of the population will be, not only in the county, but in North Middlesex, and the trend for people to be moving out to the more outside areas. And last but not least, there is a report that came to us regarding a traffic light that is a go to be located at the end of Main Street and 80 number 7 highway out by the Esso station. I did ask for clarification as to why that location and then how that would benefit traffic control as opposed to downtown. And then hopefully I'll get a report back on that. And Mayor Rupp, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's the main ones on the on that stoplight. Jonathan, would you like to speak on that at all? I think you talked with Chris on that, haven't you?
Through your worship, I have talked to Chris about that light over there. It'll be I don't know the correct term here. So around the bend going southwest coming into Main Street there off Elginfield, there'll be advanced warnings that should be installed as well. That was identified through the scope of works, although I haven't seen that document. From what was identified to me from the county engineer is that this is a light that had been identified for quite some time. And it's a little bit of a projection based off of the Westwood development that's happening in Park Hill as well, that they'll be monitoring traffic flow and trying to reduce speed around that general area. I don't have a tentative schedule when it's going to be installed, but I do know part of the repaving of Elginfield and the program that was done with the Lawrence Drain 2 years ago was kind of a little bit of a tipping point. So I'd be interested in seeing that report that the county engineer will be bringing forward to advocate on your behalf if you so decide that it should be there or not, or when the best time is to implement that.
Okay, my concern was that the majority of the traffic, as we all know from this area, is either coming or going to London. So it's either a right turn into town or left turn out of town. That's the majority of traffic. And I'm not sure how a light there would help control traffic into town at all. You know, I guess it has some limited impact at that corner, but to what extent, I'm not sure.
The Westwood Estate project may change some of that traffic flow as well going forward. It also, just a comment to the lights, it was also requested at that because of some of the intersections at the county. It was brought up, I believe Strathroy, I believe Joanne brought it up, but about some of these, there's a lot of accidents. These corners are not dangerous corners, but yet they seem to cause a lot of, there seems to be too many accidents. It was, the question from the council was, if not lights at these corners, what then? So that was another thing we're asking the engineer to come back with. You know, if not lights at these corners, what's the next step? I think, Adrian, I said that right, didn't I? That's what was asked for at that time. Okay. So any questions from county, about county? Nothing? All right. We have reading of the bylaws.
As listed on your agenda, your first bylaw for consideration is the borrowing bylaw. That's an annual bylaw that's required to meet the expenditures of the current year. Bylaw 2 is to establish the interim tax levy. Bylaw 3 is the ZBA that was passed earlier this evening for 9188 Townsend Line. Bylaw 4 is a ZBA for 10802 Argyle Street, again, that was passed earlier this evening. Bylaw 5 is the provisional bylaw for Van Massenhoven Drain. That's a first and second reading only. Bylaws 6 to 12 are all to do under the Drainage Act for amending assessment schedules or for being able to bill out drain maintenance. And your bylaw 13 is confirming. Again, just a reminder that the confirming bylaw will take into account all decisions made this evening. We're just passing it earlier, but would encompass the whole meeting. So we're looking for first and second reading.
Councillor McClinchy, Councillor Nicol, all in favor? Carried.
And third and final for all bylaws except the provisional bylaw number 5.
Third and final, Councillor Keogh, Councillor Hemming, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, I would look for a motion to go into closed for the purpose of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, fire EMS station procurement documents. And the second issue is labor relations or employee negotiations, and that is the non-union wage market analysis report. So if we could have a mover to go into closed. Councillor Keogh, Councillor McClinchy, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll just take a short break.